be busy today. So buckle up and let's get started. For those of you who have already joined me, welcome back. For those of you who are new, welcome to the IELTS Writing Class Task 2. So before we get started, I'd just like to know if you can see my screen and if you can hear me. Just let me know in the chat box. Oh yes, the chat box, right? So in the chat box, I can see many students that I have met in the chat box. You can select everyone when you select everyone. Thank you for the feedback. That's lovely. I can see many new students, but many old comers as well. It's lovely to have you all here. And we're going to thank you for the feedback. There we go. And I can see people from different parts of the world here. I can see people from Pakistan, India. Just let me know. Now, before we get started, I'd like to know, have you booked your test already? If yes, for when? Ivory Coast, the Netherlands. Great to have you all here. From Nigeria. Okay, so you haven't booked your test yet? That's great because that gives you more. So Dinesh, January 31st from Korea. Wow, the shirt, December 18th. It's right around the corner, right? In February. And what score are you aiming for? December 16th. Okay, lots of test takers coming up. December 25th, 21st as well. Okay, you guys are. So let's get you guys ready for this. Lovely. Serbia. I love to see, this is so cool. Students from all over the world. So remember, we're in a virtual classroom, so the chat box is our communication. You can select hosts and panelists or everyone. When you select hosts and panelists, only me, the teacher, I can see your message. When you select everyone, all the students and me, we can see your message. So I hope you've had time to check out and go over the study material available in your E2 language platform. There is a lot of self-study material, so we really put in a lot of effort to design material that's meaningful. A group of IELTS expert teachers, we got together, we designed the material, all thinking on methods to help you tackle the tasks more efficiently and accurately. So when you go over the methods, remember the purpose of the method, it is to help you tackle the question, develop the question quicker and more accurately. On test day, trust me, that can be very helpful. There are so many different types of questions in reading and listening, speaking and writing. You really have to be prepared and have the methods. They're the procedures. What procedures should you follow to tackle the task? So go over the methods there in your E2 language platform. Also, assessments. Assessments are very helpful. Now, what is the purpose of an assessment? So after you have practiced, you send in your assessments and the teachers will mark your assessments. We go over the writings, the speaking in detail. We point out your weaknesses and we send additional material to help you overcome your weaknesses. Okay, Harim, so 5.5 in writing. So you're at the right place today, right? So the assessments, when you receive feedback, take the time to analyze the feedback in detail. Go over the additional material that the teacher has recommended. Be sure after you have gone over and you have practiced, you can send in then another assessment to see if you have, overcome your weaknesses. Okay, so Nusrat, you can't put sentences together properly. That's very common. So what do you have to study in this case? And this is something that many students mention, that putting sentences together, how to organize the words, the word order. Well, what can help you definitely is reading. Reading is the basis of language, because when you read, you're looking at the sentences already structured, and that's ingraining. So reading is definitely one of the best ways. You're scared of writing, Noah. No, you don't have to be. Trust me. It's really nice to write. It's fun to do writing, in fact. So I can see that also we have here today students coming in by YouTube. So welcome to our class as well. All of you on YouTube and Facebook, it's great to have you here. The chat box, I'm going to do my best to answer all the questions. If you send in a question and I miss it, I don't answer it, please forgive me, but send it back in and I'll certainly answer it. Yes, Dinesh, reading, and reading in particular different material in the sense of you should read. Avoid reading like comic books maybe right now, because comic books, they may not have the sentence structures that you need. Go for more, scientific articles, go to BBC, to The Conversation, okay? You can't write enough words, Kevin, okay? So that means that you need to practice developing and generating ideas so that you can have what to write, right? So moving on, you will be scored on all 4 skills, unless you're taking the 1 skill retake. Yes, Schlock, the recording will be available in the E2 language platform. Extending your ideas, Dalal. Today we're going to look into this, okay? It's part of the class today. Now, most likely, if you're stuck at like 5.5 or 6, and you've repeated the score, most likely you're repeating the same mistakes. So it's really important that you get, feedback from an IELTS specialist. A good English teacher can help you, but an IELTS specialist, not only in English, but the requirements described in the band descriptors. So that's important when it comes to IELTS. So be sure to send in your assessments, or Mardi, you're retaking writing only. Okay, so be sure to send in your assessments, okay? So right now is a great time to join the E2 language family. There's a super promo going on. Once you land on our page, you will see that the promo is on. It's really recommended because once you're part of the family, you can participate in all the live classes. You have assessments, tutorials, and the mock test as well. So check it out. I hope to see you more here in E2. So when it comes to writing, there are 2 tasks, and you have 60 minutes to do both tasks. It's really important that you decide. Cameron, check out, there is the writing bundle, okay? Yes. Okay. Yes, okay, Edit. Yeah, at the end of the class, I'll stop the recording and I'll stay online to answer any pending questions, okay? So when it comes to writing, there are 2 tasks, task 1 and task 2, regardless if you're taking general or academic. Task 1 will be different, but you have task 1 and task 2. It's important that you decide what task you will do first on test day. It's a decision that you have to make beforehand. You can't decide on test day, oh, I'm going to start, because then you will practice according to your decision. There is no right or wrong, but it's important to have, a plan in your mind, because on test day, there's a lot of stress already going on. So it's important that you have made this decision and that you practice. Today, we're going to analyze a task, an essay we're going to write together. We're going to look into some grammar points that are quite common, run-on sentences and fragments. And of course, we'll do some writing together. For task 2, you have to write at least 250 words, and you have around 40 minutes to organize your time. So once again, you organize your time according to, the 1 hour you can put, let's suppose some students prefer putting in 45 minutes for task 2 and 15 for task 1. That's it. Will we be sent a recording? No. So the recording of this class, it will be available in the E2 language platform, and you'll be able to watch it, and you can access it in the recorded classes tab. Okay. So pencil and paper, yes, you can use, but you know that you don't really have to erase. So if you're writing in pencil, you can just cross out the word and continue, so you don't have to really waste time to erase it. So Tanya, I'm not sure what you mean by hard English or easy English. Okay, maybe that's an expression that it's not really, I'm not familiar with. I'm sorry, but if you could explain what you mean by hard English or easy English, okay? I'm just checking out if I haven't missed any questions here. Okay. I think that I'm good here, but let me know. Just put it back in. Okay, so for essay, I wouldn't recommend writing all in capital letters unless you're really good at that. Okay. There are several types of essays, but regardless the type of essay, your goal is to ultimately answer the question. Okay, advanced or beginner level? Well, preferably advanced level. If you're aiming for a higher score, of course, that means complex sentences, a variety of verb tenses. Okay. So which is better, Shema? That is an interesting question. It really depends upon your skills. If you're old school, maybe paper-based will be better for you. However, if you have already, adapted and you're used to typing and you type well, computer-based is a good option because you can edit more. Okay. So when it comes to IELTS, you will be scored on 4 different criterion. So that will add up to 100%. It's 25% for each. And in our YouTube channel, there's a great video that we prepared for you guys explaining all the details concerning the IELTS scoring. So check out. I'm going to put the link in the chat box. Okay. It's really worthwhile. It's well detailed and you will understand. It's very important to understand the scoring process. Okay. Because once you understand the scoring process, you know what you're aiming for. So today's topic. Okay, so the computer-based test is done on a desktop. And today's topic is about zoos. I know it's not a common topic, but you should be prepared for different topics when it comes to IELTS. So we're going to use the chat box. I'd love to see the chat box nice and active here. And I can also see questions in YouTube. Very soon I'll answer a few there from YouTube as well. Okay. So does your city have a zoo? So in your city, is there a zoo? No zoo. Okay. Let's think now of some benefits of zoos. So what we're going to do now is kind of like a little exercise of what you can do to help you generate ideas. Every time you ask yourself a question and you generate an answer, you're kind of like generating an idea. So getting used to this process of looking at the prompt, asking yourself questions and doing that brainstorming is very helpful to generate ideas. Can you think of benefits when it comes to zoos? What can be a benefit? For example, preserving species, right? Entertainment for kids. Lovely, Kevin. That definitely. Okay. Learning. It's a very good learning opportunity. It can save animals, definitely, for tourism. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just about maintaining diversity. You guys are right on track. That's it. Excellent. Lovely. Now, why are some people anti-zoos? So let's suppose we just looked at some benefits, but regardless, despite the benefits, yet some people are against zoos. They are anti-zoos. Ethic issues. There we go. Animal welfare. Beautiful. It's inhumane. Due to the fact that the animals are restricted, they are encaged. Okay, there we go. Now, how do you feel about zoos? Because remember, many questions they ask for your opinion. So what is, okay, so zoos are unethical and they're used only for the purpose of money. Not a big fan of zoos. Not a fan, okay. You feel sad, that's true, Dinesh. It can be educational, there we go. So, like I said, asking yourself questions can help you generate ideas. So the question is, some people believe that it is wrong to keep animals in zoos. while others think that zoos are important for education and conservation. Discuss both views and give your opinion. Okay, it can be interesting and educational, great. So this is a type of essay that says discuss both views and yours. Here we go. So how can we develop this? The first thing you have to be sure is to deal with both. Observe that they're talking about education and conservation. So always pay attention to the prompt to guarantee that you cover the question, that you answer the full question. So it takes a few seconds to double check and see exactly what the question is asking for. So pencil and paper in hands, or you can open up a notepad doc and you can work on the computer. So we're going to start by activating some vocabulary. Bear with me just one little minute because something popped up on the screen here and I'm not sure why. See if I can get rid of that. There we go. So we're going to activate some vocabulary. Get ready here. So I recommend that you read these words out loud. And if you have any questions regarding meaning or pronunciation, let me know in the chat box. We'll be back. Here we go. Okay, so it's great to see the participations in YouTube. You guys are right on track as well with excellent ideas. Jillian, Nita, all coming in with great ideas. Thank you for that participation. Okay, so now we're going to do a quiz. Ready? So I would like you to, which word or phrase from the previous page means? Let's see if you guys can remember this and just, try to use your memory here. We'll be back in just a second. Okay, that's good. Probably you realized that the chat box is closed. I closed it because when you are answering the questions, it could be quite distracting. So here we go. So previously, a student had asked what's the meaning of bolster, and I didn't answer right away because I knew that it was part of the exercise. So here you go. So bolster means to boost, okay? This type of exercise, it's very nice because it helps you to work with synonyms as well. or even a paraphrasing. Check out number 4. So sometimes you may not have a perfect synonym. Well, there isn't really a perfect synonym, but you can't think of a synonym. Paraphrasing is a very good option as well. So then you will explain, and that avoids repetition. For writing and speaking, that really is helpful. So you have the options of synonyms and also paraphrasing. Okay, let's take a look at grammar. Now, in order for you to get the 7+ that many of you are aiming for, you really have to, your grammar has to be sharp. That means if you read the band descriptors, it says frequent error-free sentences. So, I mean, that means frequent. Frequent is a very strong word. So that means you can't really have many grammar mistakes. And we know that there are many students that struggle with grammar. Now, how do you study grammar? Well, you should focus on your weaknesses. You don't have to take the grammar book and study from cover to cover, right? That's not the purpose, because you know a lot of grammar. But in some content, you may be weak. So you have to focus on this content. How do you know your weaknesses? Sending in your assessments, because then when you receive feedback, the teacher marker will correct the essay word by word. Trust me. Okay? So let's move on now. We're going to fix a very common grammar mistake in English, that is punctuation, in particular for commas. So let's look at the sentence. So what's wrong in this sentence? Can you see the error? Lack of comma. Kind of, not really. Comma won't fix this problem here. Let's see why not. Well, there are 2 sentences here, right? So the first sentence is, some people feel zoos are important. Others argue that they are cruel. So, okay, there are some suggestions. There's no linking word. That's it, Rafael. But how can we fix the sentence the way it is without adding a new word? Well, the best way to do that, since you have 2 sentences, and this is what we call a run-on sentence. It's when you jumble ideas together without correct punctuation and connectors, linking words. The easiest way to fix a run-on sentence, it is full stop and start a new sentence. Oh, but I'd like to have a long sentence. Remember that in IELTS, it says sentence variety. So simple sentences also count as sentence variety. And sometimes simple sentences, they have a very important function because they go straight to the point and they inform the reader. And then the next sentence you can use to develop it. So simple sentences can be very effective as well. So the best way to fix it without adding anything is by just full stop and start a new sentence. So you add a full stop. Or you can use conjunctions like suggested in the chat box. That's another excellent option. So let's take a look here. The option then is to use a full stop, 2 sentences, or add a conjunction. I'm not sure what's happening today with my slides. I'm going to ask you guys to bear with me again just one little minute, because I'm definitely okay, I think that now we're good. So as I said, a comma does not fix this type of mistake, okay? So now it's your turn, and I'm going to do my best to reply in the chat box. So what is your task here? You have to fix these errors. Ready? Should I leave the chat box open or should I close it? Would you like to see what your classmates are doing, or is it very distracting? Let me know. Should I keep it open or closed in the chat box? Close it? Yeah, I think so too. It can be very distracting, right? Lovely. So we'll be back. Let's focus on this task now, and I'll do my best to reply in the chat box while you guys are working on it. Here we go. Okay, that's great. You guys really keep me busy in the chat box, but that's perfect. Some very good answers here in the chat box. You guys are right on task, on track. Others maybe, let's see. Here we go. So the first one, the option is to do two separate sentences, right? In letter B, you will add the which and although. There are other options that some students sent in that I gave an okay in the chat box. I'm sorry, I would love to reply to each and every one, but there are so many students here today that I just couldn't keep up with the chat box. Now, let's see another common error. So that was a run-on sentence, when you jumble up your ideas and you miss out in using the correct connectors or punctuation. So another common mistake is, what's wrong here? So this is what we call, some people support Zeus while others are opposed. So this is what we call also it's a fragment sentence. It's not a full sentence, right? So you have two little pieces of sentences. So that's a fragment. That can also be another common mistake, where you write a sentence and you don't have all the elements that you need in the sentence for it to be a complete sentence. Subject, verb, complement. So that's important that you analyze that. So we need to fix the punctuation. There we go. So no punctuation should be before while. That means excellent. That's it. So, or if you choose to put while at the beginning of the sentence, then you will have a comma before you add the second clause. So here it is. If while is in the middle of the sentence, then no comma. However, in some cases, you will see that we do use a comma with while. So let's do some practice and we'll be back, okay? Let me see, remove the full stop. Yeah, so the participations here are great. In the YouTube channel too, I can see that there aren't. We will have a session for questions and answers for sure, but keep sending in your questions if you have any questions. Hosts, I'm going to close the chat box so you guys can get this job done. We'll be back. Here we go. Once again, that there are great participations in the chat box, so I'm trying to keep up with you guys, but you guys are working really quickly. Now, in letter B, some of you suggested although that works too, okay? So although will work. You should avoid using though at the beginning of sentences. Though should be used in the middle of sentences, preferably. Here we go, moving on. So while, with or without a comma. So when while has the meaning of during the same time that. So no comma is required then. So please don't distract me while I'm working. So that means when the two actions are happening at the same time, and you don't have a distinction, a meaning of but, then while has the meaning of during the same time. So with the meaning of during the same time, while does not require a comma. However, if while has the meaning of although, whereas, then you will use a comma. I prefer chocolate cake, while my sister prefers lime pie. Okay? So that's the difference when we're dealing with while with and without comma. Very well, just a quick tip here. Back to the task. Okay. The best structure for you to follow is 4 paragraphs. I always recommend students to work with 4 paragraphs. There are other options, and we're even going to look at it today. But if you do a good essay using sentence variety, vocabulary variety, you will get excellent scores you can get a 9 with 4 paragraphs. So there are 2 ways to structure this kind of essay. The first one is with 4 paragraphs. So you're going to discuss the first view and you're going to discuss the second view. And you will attach your opinion to the second view. So the second body paragraph is reserved, let's suppose, for the writer's opinion. So there are 2 views. The first view, which is contrary to the one that you support, but you have to discuss. So when you discuss, you're going to discuss according to what other people think. And then in body paragraph 2, it's your opinion that you attach to the second view. Now, of course, you can swap. Suddenly, the order that it is presented you can change. I'll explain that in just a few seconds. You will use 2 body paragraphs and attach yourself to one of the views. There's also the option of 5 body paragraphs. 5 paragraphs, sorry. That means 3 body paragraphs. This can be tricky. Remember, 40 minutes is the time that you have to develop this. So let's suppose you get the 5 paragraphs, but you don't have time to proofread. It will not compensate in scoring 5 paragraphs with mistakes. So it's much better, it's preferable that you have 4 strong paragraphs without spelling mistakes, because when we're typing in particular, a lot of typo mistakes come up without spelling or typo mistakes, punctuation, vocabulary variety. So sometimes with 5 paragraphs, you just don't have enough time. However, if you're a quick typer and you have a lot of experience and you've already reached a high level of English grammar, then you can go for the 5 paragraphs for sure. Will it give you more scores? Only if you have the 5 paragraphs reviewed and without mistakes, or else it's really not worth it. You should stick to the 4 paragraphs. So Utrecht, if it's advantages and disadvantages, you don't necessarily do 6 paragraphs. You deal with double idea paragraphs then, and you still use 4 paragraphs. So at E2, if you review the content and the study material, two structures are proposed for you to develop your body paragraphs: single idea and double idea. Now, the advantage of using these structures is that by using these structures, you include the content that is needed to achieve a higher score. Here we go. I'll explain that right now. So I'm going to open up the chat box again. Forgive me for that. I forgot. So once again, you can split in 3 parts, but only if you're really a quick typer and your grammar is in tip-top shape. Of course, that's another point that I'd like to, just explain. When you're answering a question for IELTS, not always can you write from your heart, because in fact, this prompt, most likely, there is a view of your own. It's not 100% one of the views. And you would like to express that, but suddenly you don't have the time to do that. So you're going to have to adapt your thoughts to fit in the IELTS format. So that means that in this case, you're going to go for the 4 paragraphs and not the 5. You may not be able to express your full opinion and your full idea, but you'll certainly get a better score then. So definitely today, it's funny how I'm struggling with the slides today. I'm not sure what happened, but I think that you realize that I'm struggling a little bit with the slides. But I'll get this right, trust me. Here we go. So we're going to work today with 2 body paragraphs. So this is what I meant about the single and double idea. So this is a single idea paragraph. You present your point, you explain, then you provide an example or evidence, effect, and link. When you use this structure, you include the content that you need, because in the band descriptors, it says present, support, and extend your ideas. So the point is when you present. Explain and example is when you support. So point, you present your idea. Explain is when you support. Effect and link is when you extend. So the way the paragraph is structured, it guides you to include the content that you need to guarantee a high score in task achievement, which is worth 25% of your essay. We use the acronym PEEL, and that's recommended for single idea paragraphs. Now, it's a little bit flexible. It is, in the sense that you can present your point and your example and then explain, definitely. In some cases, you can even skip the link sentence between body 1 and body 2. Not always, but in some cases, it's possible. That's why it's important to practice and get feedback from an expert IELTS teacher. So here we're going to think of planning now. So what happens with planning? So the 2 points. Let's suppose I support, as the writer, that zoos are important for education and conservation. So that means that in body 1, so some people believe this is going to be para 1, so where I'm going to present what other people think. And then in body 2, which is my opinion, para 2, it is the writer's opinion, I'm going to discuss the benefits and the importance of zoos concerning education and conservation. You can't go off track. Don't go off topic. Analyze carefully, always the prompt. So some people believe that it is wrong. So why do some people, and then you start. So your point sentence is going to be exactly that zoos are inappropriate for animals. So that's your point. That's what you're going to, so the function of this first sentence is your topic sentence. What is the paragraph going to discuss? And then, okay, so if zoos are inappropriate for animals, you ask yourself, well, why? Why is that? And then you're going to explain. So when you're planning and you keep asking yourself questions, you will guarantee that your ideas are connected, and that's coherence. So there was a question previously asking, how can I improve my coherence scores? The first is when you're planning, guarantee that your ideas are one connected to the other. And the best way to do that is by keeping track of your idea, question, answer, so that all of your ideas are connected. So now we're going to go to planning. Usually I reserve 5 minutes for planning. So that means that you have to reorganize the time that you use writing your paragraphs. But today we're going to go with 3 minutes. I'm sure that it'll give you time to plan at least body 1. Okay, send in your plans in the chat box. I love reading everything that you guys write. And my question now, should I leave the chat box open or should I close it? Would you like to see what your other classmates are thinking? No personal example, Dalal, okay? Because it's an academic writing. Even if you're taking the general test, task 2 is academic writing. It's an essay. Leave it open so you guys can share some experience. That's great. Okay, here we go. Planning time. Send in your ideas. So there's some excellent plans, definitely. I'm going to bring one up. I wish I could comment on each and every one. I love to comment on writing and to work with writing. Cameron. So Cameron, this is really nice. So you say, it's inappropriate. Animals suffer when they are encaged. They forget, maybe here the better word would be they lose their natural instincts. And then, of course, they become unable to survive in the wild. So you can see here, the point is that it's inappropriate. Then they explain, animals suffer when they're encaged. As an example, they lose their natural instincts. Now, when you say that animals suffer, yes, when they are encaged, and then you bring the example that they lose their natural instincts, let's analyze this carefully. Does the example support your explanation? So this is where many of you will get lower scores when it comes to task achievement, because you provided an explanation that they suffer when they are encaged. And then the examples is that they lose their natural instincts. Is this really connected, or animals when they are encaged? There you go, Cameron. So that's what we analyze, okay? That's why planning is important. So they suffer when they are encaged because they lose freedom, they don't have enough space, or they're not in their natural habitat. Now, the idea if they lose their natural instincts and they are unable to survive in the wild, that is a very good example and effect sentence. You would just have then to change your explain sentence, right? So the explain sentence here. If you're against the idea, then Abbas, you're going to swap. Body paragraph 1 is that zoos are good, and body paragraph 2 is that it's bad. Okay? You just swap. Remember that body 2, it is reserved for the writer's opinion. So if it's the writer's opinion, it doesn't matter how the question is presented. You can adjust the question according. Okay? Good job, Cameron. But you have this, you really have, the knack to planning already. And that's why it's important an IELTS teacher, you see, because the IELTS teacher, we're looking not only at grammar, not only at vocabulary, we're also looking at the band descriptors. So what do you need to do to guarantee? And that's only an IELTS expert can help you with that. Here we go. And trust me, at E2, we're good at it. So when it comes to planning, we're done. I would love to comment on each and every plan, trust me. Introduction. So there are 3 basic sentences that you need to have in your introduction. Cameron, great. It would be lovely to have you here. When it comes to writing an introduction, you have to guarantee that you include the background sentence. This is when you inform the reader the main topic. Reword the prompt. Why do you reword the prompt? Well, because the reader in the real world doesn't read the prompt. The reader will read your essay. So it's your job as the writer to set the stage, to inform the reader where the idea started. And then the thesis statement, when you inform the reader what will be discussed and the writer's position or opinion. In this case, it's opinion. Position, it changes slightly, but also it can happen. I'm going to have to speed up a little bit because I just realized that the clock is ticking much quicker than I thought it would. So this is the introduction. Traditionally, places of entertainment, zoos have changed considerably and mostly for the better. So we know that this essay is going to be discussing zoos, and that's now sometimes some words, there isn't any kind of paraphrase or synonym, like the case of zoos. So you're going to realize that you will repeat it several times, and the examiner also knows this. So environment, zoos, family, these are some words that it's very hard to paraphrase, or there aren't many synonyms available. So then repetition will happen. Then you're going to reword the prompt. While some feel that they have a crucial role to play both in education and in conservation more broadly, others argue that they are unsuitable places for animals. This essay will discuss both views and outline why I feel zoos are cruel and pointless. Now, here comes I'm going to present to you guys a very, not a personal point of view, but a linguistic point of view. When we say this essay, the essay really doesn't do much. It's the writer. So you don't be afraid of using I in the thesis statement because the essay doesn't discuss. So this is a linguistic perspective. In this essay, comma, I will discuss both views. So it's the writer. It's important. In the band descriptors, it says, presents a clear position or opinion throughout the response. So don't be afraid of using I to show your position. It is accepted 100%. And once again, the essay doesn't do much, and that's a linguistic perspective. Okay, so the first and second sentence would be in common for all the writers, because it's the background sentence and then it's reword the prompt. But the third sentence, the thesis statement will vary according to your position. So now I'd like you guys to write the third sentence. So here, for example, in this essay, I will discuss both views and then you're going to write according to your position. Let's get this done. Here we go then. We'll be back. Okay, so I always see students trying to be too creative in this part of the essay. I will elaborate. I will be careful. Sometimes some standard language is very well, it fits well. This is an essay. So for instance, once again, I wish I could comment on each and every one, but here we go. So Hassan, you said, I partially agree with the existence of zoos. So once again, it's not asking if you partially agree. Discuss both views and give your opinion. If you say you partially agree, you can't attach yourself to one of the viewpoints because either it's wrong or either it's beneficial. Okay. Once again, remember this essay, it doesn't do much. In this essay, comma, I will discuss both views and give. So for example, if I look here at Koa, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. This, even though for many of you, it may seem that it is very standardized, but it's a good standard. In this essay, I will discuss both views and give my reasons keeping animals in the zoos are inappropriate. Grammar will fix grammar, but the idea is here. What will be done, discuss both views and the writer's opinion. and give my reasons why keeping animals in zoos are inappropriate. Grammar, of course, Koba, you should look into grammar, subject, verb agreement. So, and give reasons why I believe keeping animals in zoos is inappropriate. Okay, so restructuring a little bit, but the concept is here. You've got it. Okay. Well, once again, as you can see, we're really running a little bit late, so I'm going to have to do a little trick here, and we're going to move to the essay sample. I know so when we're dealing with, when we correct essays, these are the most common mistakes that we see. Not necessarily in this order, but these are the most common mistakes that we see. So once again, in order for you to know what to work on, what grammar, content are you short, you send in your assessments. Trust me, the teacher marker will point out in detail what you need to work on. This, if you don't have this checklist, I highly encourage you to take a screenshot. This checklist summarizes the band descriptors. So what you see listed here is what you have to include in your essay. So you will answer all parts of the question, present a clear and consistent position, present, extend, and support. So all of these elements, it's what you have to include in your writing. Okay, so Romy, for you to send essays to be marked, it's in the E2 language platform. So that's why you should be part of the family so that you can get your essays corrected, be a member at E2. This is the full essay. So if we take a look here, the first body paragraph is going to discuss the other people's view, and the second body paragraph, it is the writer. So look at this. Despite these arguments, others, myself included, so look how clear in this essay the position is. So why I feel, myself included, and then in my view. So throughout, remember that we saw that criteria that says throughout, the criterion, throughout the response, that's it. So introduction, body paragraph, and conclusion, ideally, but certainly introduction and body paragraph, okay? I can see many participations in YouTube. Thank you so much. It was lovely to see you guys participating and some very good introduction sentences. So on Saturdays, we have the full class, the master class, that's an hour and a half, so we can get much more done. I highly encourage you to check out the self-study material available. Remember, if you're taking the full test, study all 4 skills. Even if you're strong in reading and listening, let's suppose, don't neglect. Continue practicing, maybe not with the same, frequency as you practice the sections that you're weak, but we kind of like lose the hang of it. So don't neglect even the sections that you're strong. Attend our live classes. Mock tests are very helpful. 2 main reasons. Of course, there are several, but I'm going to point out 2 now. The first one is that it helps you manage your time. And the second, it's that it shows you where you stand. So in order for you to really get a realistic score, before taking a mock test, you have to be familiar with all the questions in the test. So don't go for a mock test unless you're familiar with the different reading questions, the different listening, writing, and speaking questions, because then the score will not be realistic, because you'll end up wasting time trying to understand the question. So be sure that you take your mock test only after you are familiar. If you are registered already as an E2 test prep student, there we go. You can schedule a tutorial. I'd love to meet you for a tutorial. And so the PowerPoint, I'll get to these questions. Hold on. Small group classes. I love the small group classes because there are less students in class, so I can provide immediate feedback to all the students. And there are small group classes for speaking and for writing tasks too. Graham, Sasha, and I were responsible for these classes, the IELTS experts. So be sure to check out the schedules. And once again, if you're still not part of E2, of our family, it's a great moment now for you to join us. Oh, the code here, Charlie. Can you help me with the code? Suddenly when I copied it, it's past 20, is that it? Yeah, past 20. So here, guys, forgive me. I mentioned that today I was struggling a little bit with the slides, not sure why, but it worked out. So you're going to use the past 20 code, okay? Well, for those of you on YouTube and Facebook, thank you so much for joining us. I hope to see you in the Zoom channel then, because that means you have joined us as students. I'm going to stay online answering these questions. For those of you on YouTube and Facebook, not really, but for those of you here on Zoom, just hang on there. I'm just going to stop the recording. Be sure to check out the schedule. There are lots of live classes coming up. We're going to take a little break between, Christmas and New Year's, but we'll be back full power in January. Up until then, the classes are running normally. I'm going to thank you so much. I hope the session was helpful. Oh, yes, the full text, I will show it right now. And once again, I'm just going to stop the recording and I'll stay online answering these questions. Okay, have a lovely day or evening, depending where you are. And I'll see you guys. For those of you at E2, tomorrow we have reading class. Bye now.